I'm a qualified counsellor. I studied the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy, and in this video I'm going to share my story with you. So my name's Mayanthi, I'm a qualified counsellor, and I make videos all about how I became a counsellor and what you might want to know if you want to become a counsellor as well. So make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're interested in these types of videos. So I started my studies at the University of Adelaide in South Australia. This was back in 2009, and I started with the Bachelor of Psychological Science. So at the time my goal was to become a psychologist, but as I went through my studies I chose the counselling path, which I'll explain in this video. So as I said, I started with the Bachelor of Psychological Science, which was a 3-year degree at Adelaide Uni, and the reason why I chose to go to Adelaide Uni was basically because a friend of mine at the time who had studied psychology at UniSA mentioned that she thought the Adelaide Uni degree was better, just from what she had heard within the field and from other students. So I basically just went with that advice and chose Adelaide Uni. I'd also heard that Adelaide Uni is a bit more prestigious than UniSA, and keep in mind that back then Adelaide Uni and UniSA were two separate universities, but now they have joined together and made Adelaide University. So I'm speaking of my experience back when I did the course, and as I said, I started in 2009. So I did the Bachelor of Psychological Science from 2009, and that was 3 years, so 2009, 10 and 11. And once I was coming towards the end of the bachelor degree, I wasn't quite sure what to do next, because we found out that to become a psychologist you actually have to do the honours year and master's years of study in psychology to become a qualified and practicing clinical psychologist. So that was a bit of a reality check for me, because you have to keep up a certain GPA to get into the honours, and it's very competitive. There's not many spots available, so there was like hundreds of psychology students from first to third year of psychology, and only, I don't know, at the time maybe 20 students got into the honours year. So I knew that was going to be quite difficult, and I knew my grades weren't that high. So a friend and I decided to go speak to like a course advisor or career advisor at the uni, which was actually quite helpful. So if you're in that space, I would definitely recommend going and speaking to someone at the university just to get some advice and hear about what other options are available. So that career advisor, course advisor suggested that either we try and work towards the honours year or look at another degree. So at the time there was a new master's degree that was being offered, which was the Master in Counselling and Psychotherapy, and it had only been available at Adelaide Uni for I think 1 or 2 years at that time. So she was telling us about that, and I actually found that quite interesting, because even though I wanted to become a psychologist, the part of psychology that I really liked was kind of the counselling side. It was working with people, talking through their issues and trying to kind of come to some solution or look at guiding people in achieving their goals. So when she was talking about this counselling degree, I thought that kind of is a bit more up my alley, because it has more of a practical component to it rather than being research and theory based. So that's when I decided, all right, I'm going to apply for the Masters of Counselling and Psychotherapy. So in terms of choosing where to study the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy, it just kind of automatically made sense for me to continue on doing that at Adelaide Uni, because that was really the only place that was available, or at least that's all I knew at the time. So I didn't really know about these other institutions or even thought about looking at other universities, because I was already doing the Bachelor of Psychological Science at Adelaide Uni. So I have had some questions about how to decide where to study, and whether like looking at a small institution or going to a university is kind of more preferable. So I can speak to my experience, and doing it at university was my preference at the time. It was really all that I knew. But if you're looking to do it somewhere else, make sure to look at what the course is offering, what kind of registration comes out of that, what sort of supports the institution or university offers aside from the basic course, because there are a lot of other kind of benefits and services that universities offer, and it really varies like between the universities or study institutions based on what they offer. So definitely look into that. Go visit them, go call them, go have a look at their actual buildings and see what kind of computer rooms, libraries, different study areas that are available, because that can make a big difference as well, especially depending on how you study. If you're not one to really like to study at home, or if you don't have the equipment or the technology to study at home and you need to study at the location or at the venue of study, then that's going to be really important for you. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. But for me, it was a bit of an easy decision because I was already doing the Bachelor of Psychological Science at Adelaide University. So I already knew what the university looks like, what services they offer. Although in saying that, when I was a student, I don't feel like I really looked into the services that the university offers. Like now, my knowledge of what universities offer and different services and things like that is a lot more now that I don't need to study at a university. But yeah, that's why I'm really that's why I really want you guys to know that there are services, there are options out there. If you struggle with studying, make sure to go speak to someone and see what study institution, whether it's a university, TAFE, any other kind of smaller institute, would actually offer what you need for the way you study. So yeah, so after the Bachelor of Psychological Science, I then went on to study the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy. So I did have to apply to get into that master's degree, and it involved writing, I think it was a 500-word write-up of why I wanted to get into that master's degree and why I wanted to study counselling. And then there was also an interview. So it wasn't just based on my grades, it was kind of a whole bunch of things. And I think that's what it is for most master's degree. I think they do look at you as a whole person, and if you as a person will suit the career that you're going to be studying. So I guess in terms of counselling, they want to interview people to make sure people's personality and just kind of way of being is going to suit being a counsellor. Because, you know, as a counsellor, you're going to be working with human beings, working with people's mental health, and it is quite important to have people in that field that fit the right criteria. So I ended up getting into the degree, and I started in 2012, and it was a 2-year degree. But there are 2 placements that you have to do as part of that degree, and one of my placements went overtime. So I ended up finishing just over the 2 years, but luckily the graduation is like the following year. So I was able to finish my degree before graduation and still graduate at the same time I would have graduated anyway. It just took a little bit extra time to finish the placement. Because you do have to get a certain number of hours, which I think they've now reduced because they found that it was quite difficult for students to get that amount of hours within the time period. So I think you should be able to finish at the end of the 2 years as normal. But basically the Master's degree of Counselling and Psychotherapy was made up of the graduate certificate, graduate diploma and master's. So the graduate certificate is basically 6 months, the graduate diploma is another 6 months, and then the master's is another year. So I think for people who didn't want to complete the full master's, they could finish up with one of those other degrees if you do 6 months. But I just kind of wanted to do the master's and was automatically in that. So I completed with the master's degree. But again, I do get a lot of questions on, can you do a diploma and become a qualified counsellor with a diploma of counselling? And I can definitely understand that it's probably easier, it's a lot less study than doing a master's. But I have been looking at jobs recently just to see what's out there in the counselling field to share with you guys on my videos. And I have found that a lot of jobs are now asking for more than a diploma, or at least a registration with ACA or PACFA, which to get that registration it requires more than a diploma. So that is something to think about. It's not a requirement to be a counsellor to have a master's degree. but it just depends on what kind of job opportunities you're looking for. If you're looking to work as a private counsellor and set up a private practice, it's different. That doesn't require having a master's degree, but obviously, as I mentioned earlier in the video, working as a counsellor is quite an important role, and you are playing a role in people's lives and how they live their lives as well. And you may be working with complex mental health issues, which it's obviously recommended that you have a level of study and level of knowledge to be able to work with these kinds of people in a safe and ethical way. So as much as you might think it's easier to complete a graduate certificate or graduate diploma and then work as a counsellor, just think about doing an extra year of study in the big scheme of things is not really a huge deal. Obviously, if you have a family, or if you need to be working to support your family or yourself and that kind of thing, and working and studying is getting too much and you think I need to study less to be able to manage everything, maybe thinking about part-time study options. Taking a little bit longer to complete your studies doesn't, again, make a big deal in the big scheme of your life. So just think about that before you decide what you're going to study. And also, I have mentioned, like, you might do a graduate diploma of counselling, but then do some other kind of courses in areas that you are more interested in. So it might be family and relationship counselling, or domestic violence, drug and alcohol counselling. So you might do further training and courses to specialize in that area. So in the end, you are skilled to go and work in those fields, but you haven't done maybe the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy. So I hope that helped give you an understanding of what I did to become a counsellor and what you might need to do or want to think about if you're looking to become a counsellor as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up button if you liked it as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.